When someone gets buried, everything's just starting. I know that goes against everything you've learned about death. It goes against what religion taught you. It goes against what science says. It goes against what your family believes. But what if I told you I witnessed something that completely changed my perception of what happens when we die? For years, I've had visions that showed me a disturbing reality. Souls don't leave the moment of death. They stay. They wait. And some get stuck for decades, whole decades, wandering confused around their own graves. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to access more stories like this. Have you ever wondered why some people feel like the dead are still around? Why do you sometimes feel the presence of someone who's passed? Why do some places have a heavy, unexplainable energy? The answer will shock you. And if you stick around till the end of this video, I'll show you not only what really happens when we bury our loved ones, but also how you can help these trapped souls find the peace they deserve. Get ready, because your view on death will never be the same. My name might not mean anything to you, but my experience might. For 15 years of my life, I entered trance states that allowed me to observe dimensions most people will never see. I didn't choose this ability. It just happened. I was skeptical, extremely skeptical. I grew up questioning everything, especially spiritual matters. But when you witness the same scene dozens of times, when you see patterns that repeat, regardless of culture, religion, or personal belief, you can no longer deny what's right in front of your eyes. There were over 300 observations. 300 times my consciousness was transported to cemeteries, wakes, moments of passing, and in each of those experiences, I saw the souls. Confused, disoriented. Some in total panic because they didn't understand what had happened to them. If you like this content, hit that like button now to help me reach more people who need to know this truth. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I'm going to share life-changing knowledge. And if you've had a similar experience, leave it in the comments. Let's build this conversation together. I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm here to share what I've seen, hoping it can help lost souls and suffering families. There's an exact moment when the soul detaches from the body. I've seen it happen countless times. It's like a thread thinner than hair, more delicate than silk, that gently breaks. In that instant, the person isn't there anymore. The body becomes just an empty shell. But the soul stays nearby, as if still trying to figure out what just happened. In most cases I've witnessed, the soul floats a few feet above its own body, observing all the activity around it. It sees family members crying, it sees doctors declaring death, it sees all the funeral preparations. And here's the detail that profoundly disturbed me. Many of these souls don't know they've died. They try to talk to family members, they try to touch, they try to comfort. They get confused when no one responds. Why are they crying? They wonder. Why can't they see me? It's a scene of silent despair that has broken my heart countless times. But the most crucial moment comes after the funeral. When the coffin goes into the ground, when the first shovel of dirt covers the wood, something extraordinary happens. The soul feels a pull. It's as if the buried body becomes a powerful magnet, an anchor that keeps it from going where it should go. I've seen souls stand next to their own grave for days, weeks, in some cases for years. They walk in circles around the grave, as if chained by an invisible force. And the most tragic thing is that they know they should go somewhere. They feel the call of a distant light, but they just can't get away. Let me tell you about Roberto. A 52-year-old businessman, he died of a sudden heart attack during a meeting. When I had a vision of him, it had already been a week since the funeral. He was sitting on his own tombstone, hands on his head, repeating nonstop, "I have to finish the project. They're waiting for me at the office." Roberto couldn't accept that he had left in the middle of something so important to him. He stayed in that cemetery for 7 whole days, mentally reliving the meeting, trying to find a way to go back and finish what he had started. He only managed to move on when his wife went to the grave and said, "Roberto, your project is done. The company is fine. You can rest now." But the case that affected me the most was Maria's, a 73-year-old woman who had fought with her daughter months before she died. The argument was over something trivial, where to spend Christmas. but they never reconciled. Maria died of pneumonia, and throughout the funeral, I saw her desperately trying to touch her daughter's face, who was crying at the wake. After the burial, Maria didn't leave the cemetery. Every night she would walk to a specific tree about 100 meters from her grave and stand there, looking in the direction of the house where her daughter lived. She constantly whispered, "Forgive me, daughter, forgive me for being so stubborn." For 3 months, Maria made this nightly walk. 3 months waiting for a forgiveness that would only come when her daughter, unknowingly observed, went to the cemetery to talk to her mother. "Mom, I forgive you. And you forgive me too. I love you." At that exact moment, I saw a golden light envelop Maria, and she simply disappeared, finally at peace. These cases taught me something fundamental. Souls get trapped not just by material attachment, but mainly by unresolved emotional issues. Guilt, regret, worries, unsaid words, all of this becomes a spiritual prison stronger than any physical barrier. After years of observing this phenomenon, I started to understand the mechanism behind it. The human body isn't just flesh and bones. It acts like a highly sophisticated radio receiver. Each cell vibrates at a specific frequency, creating a unique energy field that keeps the soul connected throughout life. When we die, this receiver doesn't immediately turn off. Especially when the body is buried intact, it continues to emit a weak but constant signal. It's like a lighthouse that still flashes even after the storm has passed. The soul, accustomed to this frequency for decades, feels magnetically drawn to stay close. Think of it this way. Have you ever tried to tune a radio station and picked up a weak, static-filled, but still audible signal? That's exactly what happens. The buried body keeps transmitting for weeks, sometimes months, and the soul keeps trying to tune in to that familiar frequency, even if it no longer truly exists. This explains why cremation or sea burial tends to release souls more quickly. Fire transforms matter instantly, completely cutting off the energetic connection. Water dissolves and disperses the elements, doing the same thing. It's like turning off the transmitter all at once. There's no more signal for the soul to try to pick up. But with traditional burial, the body decomposes slowly, and this gradual decomposition keeps the vibrational anchor active for much longer. Some souls remain trapped until the decomposition process is completely finished, which can take years depending on soil conditions, the coffin, and the climate. I know this sounds too scientific for a spiritual topic, but the truth is that science and spirituality aren't opposites, they're complementary. The universe operates by laws, and death also follows patterns that we can observe and understand. Here we come to an uncomfortable truth that will question everything you've ever believed about funerals and grief. Our traditional rituals, created with love and respect for the dead, may inadvertently be trapping the souls we love the most. Think about the funerals you've attended. Black clothes, abundant tears, speeches about how the person will be missed, how we'll never forget, how they'll always be with us. Each of these words, spoken with sincere love, acts as an energetic chain that keeps the soul tied to the earthly plane. During my visions, I witnessed countless times the soul of the deceased trying to comfort crying family members. They see the suffering of their loved ones and feel an immense responsibility to stay, to take care, to protect, not to abandon those left behind. It's a vicious cycle. The more we cry and cling, the more the soul feels it can't leave. Imagine the situation from the soul's perspective. You've just left your body, you're confused, but you feel a light calling you to move on. Then you look down and see your wife crying desperately, your children saying they don't know how they'll live without you. What would you do? Follow the light or stay to try to take care of those you love? Most choose to stay. And that's when years of silent suffering begin, where the soul wants to leave but can't, where it tries to help but can no longer interfere in the physical world, where it helplessly watches the continuous suffering of family members. Our grieving rituals, however well-intentioned, often turn into rituals of imprisonment. Wearing black to honor the dead might be sending the message that death is something dark, negative, to be feared. Excessive crying might be telling the soul that its departure caused irreparable harm. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't feel pain or express our love for those who have passed. I'm saying that maybe we need to rethink how we do it. Maybe it's time to transform our funerals from rituals of despair into ceremonies of liberation. Everything I was observing through trances gained a whole new dimension when I met Antonio. He had a cardiac arrest during surgery and was clinically dead for 16 minutes. When he came back, he brought with him an experience that validated every detail of my visions. I saw my own body on the operating table, he told me with tears in his eyes. But I didn't stay there. I was pulled to another place. I saw my own funeral, which hadn't happened yet. I saw my coffin being lowered into the ground, saw my wife crying. I saw everything. The most impressive thing was what he described next. After they buried me, I felt a huge weight. It was as if an invisible rope pulled me back down, close to my body. I tried to go up. I tried to follow a beautiful light that called me, but I couldn't get away from the cemetery. Antonio described exactly the same phenomenon I had observed hundreds of times, the soul trapped by the vibrational anchor of the buried body. He told me that, in the experience, he spent weeks trying to communicate with his wife, trying to show that he was fine, that she didn't need to cry so much. What desperate me most, he continued, was seeing that my suffering from being trapped was causing her even more suffering. It was an endless cycle. She cried because she felt my presence, but she couldn't see me, and I became even more desperate because I couldn't comfort her. Antonio's experience only ended when his wife, after a month of intense grief, went to the cemetery and said something that changed everything. Antonio, I know you're here. I feel you trying to help me, but I need you to go in peace. I'll be okay. You can go your way. At that moment, Antonio recounted, it was as if the rope broke. I felt immense freedom and followed toward the light. Then I woke up on the operating table. Antonio's account gave me the scientific confirmation I needed. Near-death experiences are studied by neuroscientists worldwide, and many of them report the exact same patterns I observed in trance. Confused souls, trapped by emotional bonds, waiting for some kind of permission or release from the living. This was no longer just my subjective perception. It was a real, observable phenomenon that deserved to be studied and understood to help both the dead and the living. Now that you understand the problem, you need to know how to solve it. Through years of observation, I discovered that there's a simple yet powerful way to help trapped souls find their way. And the most important tool we have is something everyone possesses: our words. Words carry a specific vibrational energy. When we speak with love and clear intention, we create energetic bridges that can cross dimensions. I learned that certain phrases act as master keys capable of unlocking the invisible prisons that keep souls trapped. The first and most important phrase is, I release you with love. It sounds simple, but these 5 words contain extraordinary power. When you go to the grave of a loved one and utter these words with genuine sincerity, you are literally cutting the energetic chains that keep that soul trapped. But there's a specific sequence that works best. First, you must acknowledge the person's presence. I know you're here. This validates the soul's experience and creates an initial connection. Then, you express your love. I love you, and I'll always love you. This reassures the soul that its departure won't lessen the love you feel. Then comes the hardest, but most important part, permission. You can go in peace. I'll be okay. I release you with love so you can go your way. These words are like a golden key that opens all spiritual locks. During my visions, I witnessed instant transformations when these words were spoken. Souls that had been trapped for months simply dissolved into light and went where they needed to go. It was like watching a miraculous liberation happening in real time. But it's not just the words that matter, it's the intention behind them. You need to genuinely want the person's well-being, even if it means letting them go. It's an act of pure, detached love that puts the soul's well-being above your own need to keep them close. Another powerful technique is to change the energy of funeral rituals. Instead of using black, which symbolizes mourning and sadness, try using white or light colors, which represent light and liberation. Instead of focusing on what we lost, focus on what the person gained: freedom from physical suffering, eternal peace, a new beginning. Some families I met started doing liberation ceremonies a few days after the traditional funeral. They gather at the cemetery, not to cry, but to celebrate the person's life and officially release them to move on. These rituals have extraordinary results. I also found that playing soft music during these ceremonies helps a lot. Music has a frequency that facilitates spiritual transition. Songs the person loved in life, or serene instrumental music, create an atmosphere that encourages the soul to move towards the light. Let me share with you some of the most touching cases of liberation I've witnessed, so you can understand the transformative power of these techniques when applied with love and correct intention. The most striking case was Clara and her father, João. João had died of cancer after a 2-year battle, and during all that time, Clara took care of him with total dedication. She gave up her career, her relationship, everything to be by her father's side in his final moments. When he died, Clara felt lost, purposeless, and developed deep guilt for feeling relieved that his suffering was over. For 3 months after João's death, Clara visited his grave every day, crying and apologizing for feeling relieved. She didn't know that, through my visions, I could see João standing by the grave, desperate to comfort her, but trapped by the intensity of her guilt and suffering. João showed me, through the visions, that he was at peace with his death. He didn't want Clara to sacrifice herself for him anymore, but he couldn't leave while she blamed herself like that. It was a tragic situation, the daughter martyring herself out of love, and the father trapped because he couldn't relieve that suffering. That's when I decided to do something I had never done before. I sought out Clara in person. I explained to her what I was seeing and taught her the liberation techniques. Initially, she was skeptical, but desperation made her try anything. The following Sunday, Clara went to the cemetery with a completely different approach. Instead of crying and apologizing, she spoke directly to her father. "Dad, I know you're here with me. I want you to know that taking care of you was the greatest honor of my life. I have nothing to regret. You were a wonderful father, and now you're free from all pain." She continued, "I release you with love, Dad. You can go in peace. I'm going to live a full and happy life, because I know that's what you want for me. Go towards the light. I love you forever." At that very moment, during my vision, I witnessed something extraordinary. A golden warm light completely enveloped João. He looked at Clara with a smile of infinite gratitude, blew a kiss towards her, and simply dissolved into the light. It was the most beautiful liberation I had ever witnessed. Clara sought me out the following week, radiant. I felt when he left, she told me. It was like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. For the first time in months, I was able to sleep through the night. I know he's okay now. Another case that deeply touched me was Marina's, a 25-year-old who had lost her fiancé Rafael in a motorcycle accident 3 weeks before their wedding. Rafael had been stuck in the cemetery for 6 months, unable to accept that he had lost the chance to marry the love of his life. During my visions, I saw Rafael constantly rehearsing the vows he would make at the wedding. He stood by the grave repeating the words he had written for Marina, as if the wedding were still going to happen. It was a scene of love and sadness that broke my heart. Marina was destroyed by the loss and developed severe depression. She kept her wedding dress, kept the invitations, and turned her apartment into a sanctuary for Rafael. Unknowingly, she was feeding his spiritual imprisonment with her own denial of reality. When I explained the situation to Marina and taught her the liberation techniques, she initially resisted. "How can I let him go if we didn't even get married?" she asked. That's when I suggested something unique, a spiritual liberation wedding. Marina went to the cemetery wearing her wedding dress, carrying the rings they had chosen together. She made the vows she had prepared, put the ring on her finger, and then said, "Rafael, I marry you at this moment, so we can love each other forever, even being in different dimensions. Now as your wife, I ask you, go in peace. I release you with love so you can go your way. One day we'll meet again." Raphael's liberation was instantaneous and glorious. He finally managed to accept that their love was eternal, but that he needed to set her free to live. Marina reported feeling immense peace after the ceremony, and gradually managed to rebuild her life, honoring Raphael's memory, but without being trapped in the past. We've reached the end of this journey, but actually, for you, it's just beginning. Everything I've shared here isn't just information. it's a responsibility. A responsibility to rethink everything you believe about death, about grief, about true love. How many people do you know who are experiencing eternally prolonged grief? How many families have you seen destroying themselves because they can't accept the departure of a loved one? And now you have a new perspective. Maybe these loved ones are also suffering, trapped between two worlds, waiting for permission that never comes. I want you to stop for a moment and think of someone important who has already passed from your life. Visualize that person. Feel the love you have for them. Now ask yourself, if this person were trapped, suffering, trying to comfort me but unable to leave to where they need to go, wouldn't I want to help them? Death isn't the end, it's a transformation. And like any transformation, it requires us to let go of what was to embrace what will be. When we desperately cling to those who have passed, when we turn grief into a lifestyle, when we refuse to accept that they have moved on, we are not honoring love, we are imprisoning it. True love doesn't cling. True love liberates. To truly love someone means wanting the best for that person, even when it means letting them go to a place where you can't follow. At least not yet. I challenge you to do something transformative. If there's someone important who has passed from your life, and you feel they might be trapped because of your attachment, go to where that person is buried. If that's not possible, find a quiet place where you can connect with their memory. Use the words I taught you, I release you with love. Say it from your heart. Feel the deep meaning of that phrase. You are offering the greatest gift you can give to someone you love, the freedom to move on. And if you don't have anyone specific in mind, you can still make a difference. The next time you go to a funeral, instead of just focusing on the sadness of loss, include a silent prayer of liberation. Mentally, wish that soul to find its way quickly and without suffering. Change the energy of the funeral rituals you attend. Wear light colors when appropriate. Talk about liberation, not just longing. Celebrate the life that was lived, not just lament the life that ended. But remember, this doesn't mean you should stop missing or loving those who have passed. It means loving in a purer, more generous, more liberated way. It means understanding that true love transcends death precisely because it doesn't cling to physical forms. Souls that can leave quickly and in peace don't love us less. They love us in a higher, freer way. They become invisible guardians who can help us in ways they never could if they were stuck in cemeteries. If this video touched your heart, if it made you rethink your beliefs about death and love, share it with people you think need to hear this message. Leave a comment telling your experience if you've ever felt the presence of someone who has passed. Let's create a community of people who understand that truly loving means, sometimes, learning to let go. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to access more stories like this. And if you want to continue exploring these mysteries of human existence, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We have much more to discover together about the secrets that connect the physical and spiritual worlds. Remember, death is just a door, and sometimes we have the key to help those we love cross it with dignity and peace.